This is week 3 of a 6-week series called Cross My Heart, and we're just taking 6 weeks to talk about the promises of God. And y'all all saw that funny phrase that came on the screen during the video, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye, right? That was our way as kids of convincing someone that what I'm saying is true, right? And I don't know, that there is nothing quite, that sounds quite worse than actually having to go through with that. But we are using that as an angle to really talk about God's promises over this 6 weeks. Week 1, both of these weeks, week 1 and 2 are available online. If you haven't gotten to see them yet, I strongly encourage you to do it. Pastor Dan preached week 1 on God promises us life. And last week in week 2, he preached on God promises that we will hear him when he speaks. And so if you want to catch both of those are available online. But today, week 3, I want to talk today about a promise that really changes everything. It changes everything, and it's this: God promises to be with us in times of struggle. God promises to be with us in times of struggle. And I know, like, we're raised in the Bible Belt, right? I said that in this room, and everyone kind of goes, of course, like, right? We all agree God is with us in times of struggle, but here's where we have to be careful. Stuff that we were raised with, ideas that we just heard, they become dry to us if we're not careful. Anybody ever been guilty of falling into that? Right? God loves us, God's with us. It's those foundational things that we know, but I'm hopeful that today through this, that reality would come alive in us again. That we'd really understand the magnitude of what it means that God is with us. If you actually go back and read the Old Testament, it was a huge deal for God to be with someone or to be with a nation. In fact, whoever's team God was with, they won every single time. They didn't just win, they won bad. If God was not with your team, that team, what happened to them? They lost, and they didn't just lose, they lost like really, really bad. It's almost like my ping pong record downstairs, right? Like it's that bad. I'm like 300-0 since I've been here. It's like that bad. That's how bad these nations were losing when God was not with them. It's like the Lady Raptors, right? Crushing the game, right? No one stands. It's like hanging the cleats up. Don't even come back for the rest of the season because the domination is so immense that it just makes you never want to play anymore. If you read the Old Testament, these stories are crazy, right? It's the idea that God is with us, and he's promised to be with me this morning. He's promised to be with you in times of struggle. And here's what I want us to do to start today. I want us to think back to some times of struggle in our lives. Give you just a minute to process back. Maybe something came quick. Maybe you had a moment that was really hard. Maybe it was a season. Maybe it was several years worth of a season. But I want us to think back in those times of struggle. Difficulty, they would range, right? Different extremities, different difficulties. But if I took a survey in here and said, who's walked through a hard time? Every hand together simultaneously would go up because we all have. The question I have, if God has promised to be with us in times of struggle, why do we keep trying to fight alone? If we have his word on it, why do we keep trying to fight alone? I have a couple of guesses. Maybe one, we think that we can just kind of grit our way through it. We think we can just kind of muster up the strength to push through it. We think we can just kind of, like it's another rep in the weight room or another mile on the bike, right? We can just grit it out and get through it. But here's what I found, and this is me speaking from my own experience. That only lasts for so long before at some point you start to get crushed. And through this today, I'm hopeful that maybe we'll just acknowledge the fact that we can't. Maybe throw our hands up and just be like, I can't, Lord, but you can. That's the transfer that needs to happen as we walk this journey today. And I think, go and go to Psalm 9, if you've got it back there. This is what's going to happen. David had to understand this. David had to discover this, and we've got to discover it this morning. He wrote this: the Lord is a what? Help me out right there. He's a shelter for the oppressed. He's a refuge in times of trouble. Go ahead and go to verse 10. Those who know your name trust in you. For you, O Lord, do not abandon those who search for you. This is what's going to happen when we finally make the shift and say, I'm going to quit trying to grit my way through my seasons of struggle. That struggle that you had in your mind right there at the beginning. I'm going to quit just trying to grit my way through it. I'm going to embrace the fact that I can't. And I'm going to ask God to come and step into my situation with me. I want to use the rest of our time today to talk from Daniel chapter 3. It's one of my favorite stories in the entire Bible. Some of you in here may have heard it, some of you may have not. It's three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Throw your hands up if you've heard those three names before, right? Several. It's an incredible story. It's one of my favorites in the whole Bible. Don't name your kids that. It won't go over well. All right. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel chapter 3. This story is one of the most insane miracles that have ever happened, really, in the history of the world. And it all happened because God was with them. It was happening, just to kind of set the stage for this story right here, it's happening in a region known as Babylon. And Babylon, I'm a big geography guy. It was in the southern portion of Mesopotamia back in this time, known today as Iraq. 55 miles south of Baghdad is where this story was happening back in the 6th century BC. And we see this region of Babylon beginning to rise to power. And the Babylonians overtook the southern kingdom of Israel, and the Hebrews, the Jews that were in the southern portion of Israel, were taken back to Babylon to serve there, to work there, and to be a part of a pagan empire. And the king in this region of Babylon, throw another fun name in the mix, was King Nebuchadnezzar. All right, Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon at this time, and we're going to see some pictures of Nebuchadnezzar's character here as we go, but he had constructed a 90-foot statue, 90 foot, right? So if we kind of have two tiers of ceilings here. This one's about 20 feet. Kind of the center right there is 25 feet. 90 feet's about 4 of those stacked on top of each other. So if you look up and kind of imagine that was the size of the statue Nebuchadnezzar had built, and the statue was of himself, right? And he was inviting at that time all the high-ups, all the executives, all the officials from the surrounding area to come and to worship this 90-foot statue that had taken years to build. And so tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people are coming to Babylon for this huge dedication ceremony. When people start getting there, Nebuchadnezzar lays out the conditions. He says, I want you to know, he's talking to hundreds of thousands of people. He says, when you hear the sound of the instruments begin to play, you have one responsibility. It's to fall on your face and worship this statue that I have built. Now, you need to know something about Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was a harsh guy. He was not a guy that was to be messed with. In fact, when someone would commit treason against the Babylonian Empire, he would cut their heads off. He would hang their heads around town as a warning to people that were just walking the streets of what would happen to them if they committed treason. And so when he stands before hundreds of thousands of people and says, hey, when you hear the sound, I need you just to bow right there. Go ahead and give me your worship. What do you think hundreds of thousands of people are going to do when they hear the sound? They're going to hit the deck immediately so that their heads don't end up on the street as well. There was a punishment for this. If one did not bow, they were tossed into what we know today as the fiery furnace, burnt to death right there in front of everyone. The sound begins to happen. Hundreds of thousands of people bow immediately before this 90-foot pagan statue. But not 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But what's wild is Nebuchadnezzar couldn't even see it happen. There's tens of thousands. How are you going to be able to tell if there's 3 people not bowing down, right? It's a sea of people. There was a group of Chaldean astrologers that ratted on the 3 Hebrew boys. That's like tattletaling on a whole nother level right there. Running up to the king, hey, king, there's 3. There's 3 right there that are not bowing, sir. Might want to do something about that. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, shh, I don't know what's happening here, but don't tell him. The story picks up in verse 12. Right here, here's what the Chaldeans actually said to the king. There are some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. They don't pay any attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods, and they're not worshiping the golden statue that you have set up. Nebuchadnezzar, we know his track record, right? He's furious. And he tells them, hey, go ahead and bring those 3 boys to me. They begin the long walk past all of these people that have come to worship the statue. They walk onto the stage. They probably have a glimpse of the fiery furnace just off to the side, right? And the pagan king asked them this question. Let's go ahead and go to verse 14. Watch this. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, 3 words, is it true? Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the gold statue that I have set up? Is it true Now, let's get something straight. It's one thing to honor God when you're just kind of blended into a sea of people. It's another thing to stand before a king with this track record face to face, and he asks you those 3 words, is it true? It's another thing to express another layer of allegiance right there. That would have been a bailout moment for so many people. I'm even wondering myself, it's like, actually, king, beautiful statue you have here. I'd like to worship it, right? You did a great job on this. It's incredible. Love it. Love this view. I'd love to just worship right here just for a moment if you would allow me. Coming up with whatever excuse we can come up, right? The fiery furnace is in the peripheral. I love your statue, king. I'll worship just one time, right? Anybody ever said that? Just one time. But not Shadrach, not Meshach, not Abednego. Verse 15, the story continues right here. I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship. The statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, here's their fate. You will be thrown, how fast? How fast? Immediately into the blazing furnace. And then, look at this question, shows his arrogance. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my power? Yikes, right? This is their moment. This is the moment that God has been waiting for. What a stage for a miracle to begin to happen, right? Hundreds of thousands of people standing there. Verse 16, here is their response. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. 17, if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. Verse 18, but even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve the gods or worship the gold statue which you have set up. Nebuchadnezzar flips, man. Just absolutely flips his can. And what do you think's about to happen as they have just publicly denied this king that's so eager for more and more power? What happened is Nebuchadnezzar looked at his mightiest men and said, I want you to heat that furnace up 7 times hotter. And that word 7 is very interesting. It doesn't mean that the temperature actually increased by 7x. The word 7 is the number of completion. It's the number of fulfillment, right? And so what he's saying is, I want you to heat that furnace up as hot as it can possibly go. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are seeing it happen. Nebuchadnezzar got his mightiest of men, tied these 3 Hebrew boys up. They're 17 or 18 years old at the time. Tied them up hand and foot, wrapped them, and tossed them into the fire. The fire was so hot that the guards that tossed them in died the moment that they tossed them. Pretty wild, right? The fire just consumed them, burnt them to a crisp when they tossed the boys into the fire. Nebuchadnezzar, this is where the story begins to peak right here. Nebuchadnezzar looks into the fire, verse 24. Suddenly, Nebuchadnezzar jumps up in what? Amazement. And exclaimed to his advisors, don't forget the sea of people right here. He exclaims, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace? Yes, your majesty, we certainly did, they replied. But Nebuchadnezzar in verse 25 says, look, I see how many men? I see 4 men unbound, walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th one looks like a god. Leave that one up there just for a second. New King James Version actually says that the 4th one looks like the Son of God. And a lot of scholars, most scholars agree that what's happening here is that this is not just some random person in the fire. It's not an angel. Most scholars agree that this is actually Jesus himself. 600 and something years before the cross would ever even come, stepping from heaven into the fire to become the 4th man. It is the pre-incarnate Christ. What that means is that it's the Christ, it's Jesus himself before he took on flesh, stepping into the fire. Nebuchadnezzar, with his own eyes, sees something extraordinary. I want to talk about 3 things right here that Nebuchadnezzar sees. My first observation is that he sees Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego unbound, untied. Why is this interesting? Because the mighty men just tied them up and tossed them into the fire. Yet when he's looking in front of this sea of people, he's like, they're unbound. What happened? Did you not tie it good enough? Right? Which he can't ask the mighty men that question because they're dead. But he's like, what happened to the ropes? What happened to the chains? Here's what I think that means for us today. What if you and I are asking God to take the very struggle away that he wants to use to set us free? What if we're begging God to make the fire stop when it's the fire that's required to unbind us from the things that are holding us back? What if we're spending our whole life just begging God, make the pain go away? And God's like, no. I want to use it to set you free. Think about the things that may have bound you. Perhaps it's trial and struggle and opposition that he'll use to get you to a place of freedom where the world will look on and be like, he's different now that he's come out of the fire. She's different now that she's come out of the fire, unbound. The second thing I see in this story is they are walking in the fire. Is that the word right there? I see 4 men unbound walking around in the fire unharmed. What's this mean for us? They weren't debilitated. They weren't in the fetal position. They were walking. What does this mean for you and me? It means that perhaps in our struggle, it's possible for us to walk through it instead of complaining our way through it. Perhaps it's possible for us to put one foot in front of the other and keep stepping full of confidence and not gripe and grumble and post on Facebook about all the issues, but to really see that, hey, I can walk through this thing. This fire doesn't have to be my end. I don't have to lay down and die right here. There's something beyond it that I can continue to work toward, continue to step toward. This all sounds really great, right? God will use trial to set us free and unbind us. Perhaps we can walk through trial. It all sounds great. But the question that we have to answer is, how is it possible? How is it possible that in fire we would lose our chains? How is it possible for us to walk? It's very simple. And it's this: because there is a fourth man in the fire. And he's not just any man. He is the Son of God. And he stepped into the fire with us. And watch this. The moment that he stepped into the fire, any power that the fire had became inferior to the power that he had. And the fire immediately lost its power because he carried all of it. That's how it's possible, man. Isn't that awesome? That's how we're able to walk. You see people who have walked literally through what felt like hell, and it's like, how? It's like, it's very simple. Because someone stepped into the fire with me and equipped me and freed me and sustained me to be able to put one foot in front of the other and keep stepping through. Verse 26, we're going to finish this story right here. Go on to verse 26 of Daniel chapter 3. Watch this. Verse 27. Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors, they crowded around them. Imagine this moment right here. These 3 men that were in the fire just walk out. And they're like looking them up and down, just like touching them, making sure that, like, what just happened, right? Probably afraid to touch them because maybe their clothes are still hot. I don't know, right? They crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their heads was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell like smoke. What a miracle, right? What an extraordinary miracle. The fire had no power. They were not burned. The smell of smoke was never on them. One thing changed everything, and this is where we work toward a close today. One thing changed everything. God stepped into the fire with them. They didn't try to fight that battle on their own. They were convinced that King Nebuchadnezzar, if you turn the heat up, honestly, 7 times hotter is probably mercy. You know what I'm saying? Burn faster. You don't have to suffer as much. I don't know. Turn it up as high as you want to, King. We're not bowing anywhere else. I ain't going anywhere else. My allegiance is to God. Toss me in. I'm convinced he's able to save me. But King, even if he doesn't, it's okay. It's okay. It's all good. It's okay. Because I will never bow to another one than him. Right? What a level of faith, what a level of allegiance. And I'm sitting here, just me being transparent with you right now, I'm sitting here thinking back to moments in my own life where it's like, I just wanted him to make it stop. I just wanted him to make it go away. Anybody ever felt that way in here? Prayer life for weeks, it's just like, God, make it stop. Make it stop. God, what's the point? Why would you have me walk through this? I think specifically to the time where my dad had been sick. He passed away from cancer, and that was a 2-year tough journey. And then even after, it's kind of, you're just dealing with that thought process. I was 21 at the time. And it's like, just make it stop. Like one word, God, all you had to do was say one word and he would have been healed. But here I am, you didn't say that word, and now here we are, and it's like, what's really happening here? Why'd you choose this? Think of even recently, last 2 or 3 years, just some situations. It's like, God, you could just make this all go away. You created the world with your own mouth. You crushed armies by just lifting a pinky. You could make this go away. Why are you not? And I'm convinced this morning, to the best of my understanding to this point in my life, that sometimes God will take the fire and he will just extinguish it. And that's an incredible thing. But man, sometimes he will let the fire roar. Why? To remind you, to remind me, and to remind the world that it has no power when he steps into it. And so I sit there even like right now, just like struggling with that tension, like remembering vividly the moment that he stepped into my fire that I was being crushed by because I thought I could grit my way through. No. The moment that he stepped in, did the pain go away? No, it didn't. I feel it right now. Did the struggle just cease in the moment he stepped in it? No, I'm in it. Here I am. You're watching publicly. If you're watching online, this is struggle. But something did change. I wasn't consumed by it. It wasn't the end. There was something on the horizon, right? I got a glimpse of something that tasted so good, and it's called hope. Because I realized that there's a plan for me. And I want you to realize there's a plan for you beyond your current situation. And perhaps God wants to use this very situation to equip you for where he's called you. If you are not serving him this morning, if you're not walking with God, maybe you just showed up today and it's like, I'm just going to give this whole God thing a try. I've heard about it. I never thought it was for him. Maybe it is. You showed up, man. We're so thrilled you're here. What a day to show up, right? So thankful you're here. But if you're here and that's you, I want you to know that the same being that Nebuchadnezzar saw in the fire in the 6th century BC, some 630 years after that moment, would actually step from heaven once again to wrap himself in flesh, to live a perfect life, and to die on a cross that you and me should have had to die on. And today he wants you to be able to taste of hope and be able to taste of the reality that there is something beyond your current situation. There is something spectacular that he has laid out for your life. And I promise you, once you taste hope, nothing tastes better than that. Your soul comes alive and you realize, hey, there's purpose on my life. He knit me together in my mother's womb and he had plans for me. He didn't just send me into trial, he stepped into it with me, and he wants you to be able to see that today. All that's required of you is that you say, Lord, I can't do it on my own. I need you to come. When he comes, everything changes. It changed for the 3 Hebrew boys in Daniel chapter 3, and it'll change for you. I'm going to bump through these final 3 things very quickly, but there's 3 things that we need to take with us today. 1, your struggle is your opportunity to walk with Jesus. Isn't that what the 3 Hebrew boys were doing in the fire? They were walking with him. If you're in the middle of a difficult time, it's prime time opportunity right there to begin to walk with him. Number 2, your struggle is a setup to show the world who God is. Talk about a scene for a miracle to begin to happen. God was setting up a pagan empire to look on and see something extraordinary happen. If you go read the end of Daniel 3 if you want to this week, but just to hint at it, Nebuchadnezzar stands up before the sea of people right underneath his 90-foot statue that he had called everybody to come and worship. And he says, Babylon, I want you to know that there is no God, pointing to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, there is no God who can deliver like this. Their struggle was a setup to show the world who God really is. Here's the third one. Your struggle is your reminder that this world is not your home. I want to talk to the people who are saved in here. Listen, don't get too comfortable here on this earth. We are passing through. Like the twinkling of an eye, like dust, we are vapor just passing through. Don't lounge back on the couch and start enjoying this life too much, because there's another place that's been prepared for us. May every ounce of sorrow, every ounce of pain, every ounce of struggle that we ever experience, just remind us when we feel that, right? We've all felt it. When we feel that, just be reminded. Remind yourself, this world's not my home. There's another place with no sorrow, no pain. It's full of hope and it's full of life, and it's where the people of God are going to dwell. For how long? Forever. I want to invite you to stand with me this morning. I want to pray over you, pray for us. Man, I know some of that's heavy right there, but struggle is heavy, right? And I'm tired of seeing people that walk with God just get beat up and lay in the fetal position. I don't want to say that I say that with a ton of compassion, because I've been there. God's inviting us to discover that there is a way through, and it's full of hope and it's full of life. And the world will look at you when you come out of that situation and be like, man, there's something different about you. And you know what you're going to get to do? Let me tell you about the fourth man. He helped me, and he'll help you.